Welcome to the Cold and Dark start tutorial for the iFly 737 MAX 8 for MSFS. Jumping straight inside to the flight deck, the first thing we'll do is head up to the overhead panel. And of course we'll start by switching on the batteries. We'll now head down to the EFB, power that on. We'll go to the system page, sim menu, and ground support. We're going to connect the ground power truck and press set. If we look outside, we can see that the ground power truck is now connected to the airplane. So let's move back inside and continue. We'll now switch on the ground power switch and switch on the electric hydraulic pumps. Heading back to the EFB, we'll go back over to panel style, other systems, and set our IRS align time to instant and then press set. Let's now switch on the APU, so we'll flick the starter switch down to start, and while we're waiting for it to start up, we'll head up top and flick the IRS switches over to nav. Again, while we're waiting for APU to start up, let's arm the emergency exit lights. When the blue light above the APU gen switches is illuminated, you can switch on the APU gens. With the APU started and the generators running, we'll switch on the fuel pumps. We'll just square a few more bits away here, so yaw damper goes on, probe heat goes on, and I'm also going to switch on the window heat. Before we start the engines, we'll want to switch on the APU bleed air. Last few bits to take care of before engine start. Switch on the cabin utilities, in-flight entertainment, passenger seat electricity supply. Also seatbelt signs just for convenience, and airplane lights as required here. We can also now switch off the ground power. Okay, it's now time to start the engines. So we'll flick the ignition switch over to the left engine and we'll set engine number 1 to ground. Heading down to the pedestal, we'll introduce fuel by flicking up the engine start lever for engine number 1. When the M1 reaches 20, you've got a good start on engine number 1, so you can now repeat the process, flick the ignition switch over to the right engine, set engine number 2 to ground. Again, head down to the pedestal, flick up the fuel lever, and introduce fuel to engine number 2. When the M1 of engine number 2 reaches 20, you've got 2 good starts. With both engines started, we can return the ignition switch to the center. We'll now switch on the engine generators, and switch off the APU. We'll also set the air conditioning packs to the auto position, and we'll switch off the APU bleed. When starting from cold and dark, we need to tell the airplane where its initial position is. So on the FMC, we go FMC, and then position, copy the last position into the IRS position, and that's all you need to do. Your PFD and navigation display will now come to life now that the airplane knows where it is, and you should have no master caution lights by this point. This is a good time to set your flight altitude to your cruise altitude. So this will set the correct cabin pressure. I'm going to set this to 26,000, which is used in my full flight tutorial. Now time to disconnect the ground power. So we'll head back out of the panel menus and we'll go to the ground support menu, disconnect the ground power cart and press set. Just a quick check of your overhead panel before you continue. You shouldn't have any amber lights or cautions. As your flight continues, remember to set lights as required. FMC and autopilot setup can be found in my full flight tutorial, which is linked in the pinned comment. The only difference when starting from cold and dark is that you might well find that your V-speeds have been pre-populated. All you have to do is press the soft keys next to those V-speeds to commit them, and they'll now appear on the PFD. Additional things to be aware of when starting from cold and dark and not the runway, you'll need to set the flaps yourself. I'm setting them to position 5, as used in my full flight tutorial. All that remains from cold and dark is to push back. Disconnecting the parking brake also disconnects the airplane chocks and allows you to push back. And we'd also set the auto brake to RTO. One more thing to note when starting from cold and dark, you probably have to enter your own squawk code. That's very easy on the radio panel. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe for regular simulator content. Take care, and I'll see you next time.